Peace and love. Welcome back. Hope everybody's staying blessed. We're out here in the rainforest today. Beautiful sunny day. So, the observer. What is the observer? All day, we're having thoughts. Thousands and thousands and thousands of thoughts. We have conversations in our head. We might mess up, make a mistake, and be saying to ourselves, damn, I wish I wouldn't have done it like that. Or maybe we set somebody straight and we tell ourselves, yeah, I really told him, But ultimately, all this conversation that's happening in our head, who are we talking to? So this is where we come to the observer. We have our conscious self that when we say something, oh yeah, okay, I should do this differently, okay, I'll do this differently. But ultimately, these deep thoughts, who's listening? It's the higher self, or what we call the observer. The ancients sometimes called this the God mind. So, what do we mean when we say the God mind? Is this actually God, the creator, in our minds? Well, there's a scripture that they don't like to look at very deeply sometimes, but we're going to take a deeper look at it. 1 Corinthians 3:16 and 17. And it says, know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? If any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are. So, this scripture, in layman's terms, is basically saying, you are the temple of God, and that Spirit dwells in you. So, why don't they like to look at this scripture very often? Because the scripture basically tells us that a part of the Most High is literally inside of us. And this is who I call the observer. Not just me, but many deep adepts will call this mind the observer. And this observer is the one who we are constantly talking to, the one we are constantly bouncing our ideas off of. At night when we have those deep thoughts, or what some people even call prayer, well, before anything can leave us into the ether, it goes through the observer. So I want to address this observer so that we can start paying more attention to it. Rarely do we pay attention to this observer, this higher self, this God mind. And we should. We should pay attention to this observer, because I feel that if we tap into the higher self more often, or if we look deeper at this higher self, we realize just how powerful, spiritually powerful we really are. And sometimes it's hard to reflect on that observer. We always have this voice going all day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, a voice, a voice, a voice. But now, the question is, does the observer speak? Does the observer respond? Well, I can't get inside your head, so I can't really know for you, but I can say, for me, when I started really paying attention to the observer, because I'm the type of person who talks to myself a lot. I just do. Some people do, some people don't. I'm always talking to myself, thinking to myself, running ideas off myself, but I never really stopped to think, who is listening? And when I stopped to finally look at this observer and realize who this observer is, you realize that yes, the observer does speak, but the observer, the higher self, only speaks when the lower self is listening. So what does this mean? A lot of people meditate. I love to meditate. I think meditating is a great activity, but sometimes there's confusion about how to meditate. What are we meditating on? Where do we stop our thoughts? Should we be thinking about something? And what I finally figured out for me that meditating really is listening. The art of listening. And this is when the observer, or the higher self, or the God mind speaks. When we're able to get ourselves in a place where we can just sit there and listen. And so for me, obviously this is an excellent place to start for anybody who wants to experience this response from the observer, and when you get into that state, when you're finally able to listen, it's amazing some of the response that you get from this higher self, this higher mind. This could be what we refer to as intuition. When you get a feeling and you just know, okay, this is what I need to do, that's the observer speaking to you, right? So for me, especially as I said, as a person who thinks a lot and is talking a lot to myself in my head, it makes a big difference to really look at this higher self, this spiritual self, this God self, and really try and connect with that self. And I think that's something that can help all of us spiritually, is when we sort of tap into our higher self. Now, of course, there's going to be the people out there that say, oh, you're taking us away from God and Jesus and all that and third. Just because you tap into your higher self does not mean that you're still not tapping into the Most High, or you still don't have a relationship with God, whoever you name him as, or however you look at him. But it just means, really, we're just using what God gave us, according to 1 Corinthians, to its full potential. God said, I made you in my image, in the Bible at least. So, and right there in Corinthians, we see how that deep scripture telling us that it's in you, that spirit of the Most High dwells in you. And so, no, this doesn't take us away from God, tapping into the higher self. It brings us closer to the divine. So, deep thoughts for today. Hopefully all of us can start tapping deeper into our higher selves, the God mind, the spiritual mind, and observe the observer. So, peace and love, like, subscribe, hit the bell. Until next time, I'm out.